So today we have my brother Jorma.
Such a good episode.
Who I know and love. He is a brand new Bitcoiner. You know, the reason why you want to listen to this episode is to learn what happens after you buy your Bitcoin, after you stack your very first sats. How can you go deeper and take that into your own custody and control your own wealth, right? So we're really excited for you all to listen to this episode. Remember to like and subscribe, get those Bitcoiners their laser eyes. And here you go. Enjoy. So Jorm, my brother, very recent Bitcoiner. Correct?
Very recent.
Very recent.
Yeah.
So, and I was there. I was there for the very first transaction.
Yeah, you were in person.
Right? Amazing. And we went from...
I didn't know what I was like, what am I supposed to do here?
We went from which exchange to which wallet?
We did Bitcoin Well. And then I got the Sparrow wallet.
Same.
Nice.
So I did some Redditing and some search or whatever and looked at various wallets. There was like Electrum, one of them.
Mm-hmm.
And that one and Sparrow and another one.
BTC Sessions is all about that Sparrow. And the guys at
videos.
Nico at Simply Bitcoin, he's all about that Sparrow. I think it's one of those wallets that has more functionality than you might need right off the bat. But as you grow and learn, you're happy it's there. And I think that's what BTC Sessions said as well. It's like, it has all this stuff, you know, maybe you just do this piece of it, but over time you can make it all happen.
It's definitely got a lot more on it than I know what is happening in regards to. I'm like, I don't even know what this means. These are like some acronyms, and I have to look it up every single time because I'm like, what does UTXO mean again? And
is that comforting or does it give you a little anxiety?
No, it's fine. That's like my job has a lot of that in it. And so it's just like, okay, this is just something I'm have to like at some point I'll like get it. I would say it's fine for me. I think it could be overwhelming to some people because now trying to set up all this stuff on my own, I'm like, I was doing it one night and I was messaging Stu just like, all right, I like hit a point where there's a wall and I don't even know. I'm like, I know what these words are individually and I see them in a sentence and the sentence makes sense to me, but then I still am not understanding what it's saying. And so, but then in the morning, I went back to it and I was like, all right, let me see if I can make a little progress on this, trying to set up a Lightning node. And then I was able to move forward a little bit. I was like, okay, I'm starting to see. So I think it kind of like takes some time. There's like a lot of technical stuff that just takes a minute to even like rock a bit.
Yeah.
Jorm's a really good troubleshooter.
Yeah.
He is the family's troubleshooter. Our dad, dude, if the technology is not working, like if his laptop isn't doing what it's supposed to be doing, or it's not connecting correctly, or the TV or his phone, he gets steadily more and more angry until he is fully enraged with the technology, dude. Fully enraged. And Jorm comes in real chill and says, okay, well, let's figure out what's going on. Let me try this pathway. That's not it. Let me try this pathway. That's not it. So we can rule these things out. So it was exciting for me to watch Jorm go from initial transaction to, where he is today, which we're going to hear about here. But I'm going to benefit from that because he's literally already gone far. Dude, I've been ripping on that B corn since Jan 2024, bro. And I have jumped into what it is and why it is and all this stuff. But the most I've done is get Bitcoin into self-custody, going from Bitcoin Well to my Electrum wallet, right? Because I saw it was made by some German guys. Shout out to Germany. But Jorm has gone even further than that. And it's been like, was it before Yule? Was it right before Yule that you...
That's a good question. Maybe it was right before Yule. I can't help it. It's like what I do. And I have this Raspberry Pi just hanging around that I made as a Pi hole, which basically, if you put it on your network, it gets rid of ads to anything that's on your network. Surprisingly powerful. So I was like, all right, so if I'm going to get any sort of Bitcoin or whatever. This is all about self-custody and all this kind of stuff they're talking about. And it's all about privacy or whatever. It's like, all right, well, let me just do that. Mm-hmm. I already have the hardware sitting around. Turns out I didn't. I had to order a couple other things. So you also need it turns out you can't just have like a 32 gig micro SD. You also need this like 1 terabyte or 2 terabyte SSD because you have to have the full blockchain stored on it. Uh-huh. And so that all the transactions that have ever happened need to be verified by your Bitcoin node and stuff, or whatever. So I don't know. It's interesting setup. Something I do regularly for work is this type of stuff.
Yeah.
So it's certainly not foreign to me. But it's not something, every single time I do something like this, if it's something I haven't done before, I'm like, I don't know what I'm doing.
Yeah.
Until I finish it and I'm like, okay, I kind of know what I'm doing a little bit.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Yeah.
That's kind of how it feels. But I have to go all in on things like this. So
Dude,
I couldn't help it.
It's so awesome.
Plus, and the other thing that made me do it is because you had me get on Bitcoin Well, and you gave me a referral code, and I go in there, and it was like, cool, you get some like points, like some Bitcoin Well points, and you can turn those points in and it's like a little lottery where you might be able to get a bunch of sats.
Yeah.
And I was like, sweet. So I like rolled it, and I was like, cool, you get like 50 sats or so. I forget what it was. It was like 50 points, and I got some amount of sats. I was like, word. At the time, I didn't know how much that translates into dollars, which is really all I care about at this point in time. And I was like, cool, Stu, how do I get this? So this is like, when I click on this, it's just a QR code, but I can't do anything with it. And I can't, like, how do I actually, where does this money go? And he's like, oh, you need to like set up a Lightning thing or whatever. I'm just like, bruh. Okay. So I would like, okay, yeah, right. I was like, bruh, okay. I was like, well, how do you get yours? Where are yours at? He's like, oh, they're all just sitting there. He's like, I don't have one either. And I was like, what? Dude. I was like, you're getting me into this and you don't even have yours either? Yeah. Like, what are you talking about? And so then it was like, all right, well, let me say you do this. I'll do this. And so then that's how I started going down the route hole. I was like, all right, well, let me see how I can do this then. And I was like, oh, I can set my own Lightning node, and then I can set my wallet to that. And then I can claim it through the Lightning on the Lightning network or whatever and all that kind of stuff. So yeah. That's currently the phase I'm in right now.
And as soon as he figures out that Lightning channel, I'm going to jump on and redeem my squillions of Bitcoin Well points that have just been stacking up the whole time because I can't redeem them.
I'm going to take
that on the Lightning wallet.
Yeah, I'll be like, sure, yeah. There'll be like a miner's fee for me to like let you get on it. Yeah, I'm going to charge like a monthly cost for you to get on my private Lightning node.
A modest 20%.
A modest fee. Right.
That's okay, because I'm going to rip the 21 million sats biggie each time I toss a coin into the wishing well.
I love that. Yeah, because they're like, you get this many sats. And I got like nowhere near that. I was like, well, right.
Yeah, 50.
I do have some channels open now. Well, I tried to open some channels with my Lightning node. So basically you connect to these peers on the Lightning network. And there's like huge ones. Like, what was one of them? Like, started with a B. I can't remember.
Binance?
Yeah, Binance has a huge one, but it's private, so I couldn't connect to it. And then there's some other ones that are huge, and and you have to like go on these websites to look at all these nodes and try to figure out which ones you want to connect to and see how many peers they have and how many connections they have and how many Bitcoin can be traveled through them. And I went to open a channel. I was like, cool, you have to like put Bitcoin in the like sats in the channel to have like a bandwidth of how many sats can traverse between you and that node, because like if I only have like 20,000 sats available and I try to transfer 30,000 to somebody through my node, I can't because I'm at 20K max, I think. Okay. Right? And I problem is I never transferred enough money into my node to even have there's like a 20K minimum for a channel. And I was like, I don't even have that many in my node, dude. So now I have to like transfer more money in there. I have to make sure I have like the sats per VB correct to get the fee right, because I completely lowballed my first transaction and it never went through. And you have to be on all, it's pretty crazy. So it's interesting to say the least.
You want
to game the system here.
I mean, you're diving into the guts of Bitcoin.
Seems like, yeah. Dude, no idea what I'm doing, and I have no idea how any of it works or anything about it, except for very specific technical things I'm trying to figure out. So I'm in this weird place where I have like some weird deep knowledge, but like nothing outside of that almost.
And when he comes back to give us an update in 9 months on his Bitcoin baby, he's going to be one of the core developers on Bitcoin. Yeah. Like, okay, now look, here's what we're thinking about, you know what I mean? And we're going to try to make sure a majority of nodes adopt the latest version of Bitcoin. We're like, Jorma, oh my God, you've gone so far, bro.
Yeah.
What is happening, dude?
Yep.
We went from first Bitcoin transaction to developer of Bitcoin, and now I'm like, oh my God.
One day at a time.
Dude. So, what we want to hear from you, Jorm, is the story, the Bitcoin story,
Okay.
right? So when we have someone on the show who is a Bitcoiner, the golden ask becomes, what was it like for you before you bought Bitcoin? What happened that made you buy some Bitcoin? And what is it like now that you are a Bitcoiner?
Okay. Well, I don't even know if I would consider myself I guess, what are your definition for Bitcoiner?
Someone with Bitcoin is
Okay.
a Bitcoiner.
All right. Well, then there you go. I don't really feel like a Bitcoiner. But if the definition is just I own Bitcoin, then I do own some sats. Yes. For me, beforehand, it and after is like no different to me, except that I just have more knowledge of this, generally speaking. At least on a lot of the tech stuff. It was, I'm just chilling, and then Stu is only talking about Bitcoin. And that's the only thing that he's talking about now. And it went from him sending me all sorts of like lifting memes to now it's all Bitcoin memes. And I'm like, I don't know what's going on right now. So then I was like, all right, well, I'll start grabbing some Bitcoin. Sure. Like, to me, it's like an investment, right? So I have mutual funds, I have stocks, I have, an HSA that I've also put in. That's also just like in stocks, which is like wild. And so for me, it's just like another investment portfolio or what have you.
Mm-hmm.
So the issue is it's not simple for me. It wasn't simple for me, at least, to just buy some. It's like I can't just like go onto Charles Schwab and buy NVIDIA, right? I have to be like, okay, how do I even get Bitcoin in the first place? Although I do think you can get Bitcoin in some of these places, I suppose. Because didn't you say that some places
Not directly, but you can you can buy into their ETF, which is new.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah.
Yeah. So there is some financial productization of Bitcoin now. And that was kind of my moment to start learning about Bitcoin was in January of 2024. I logged into LinkedIn to go be a social seller. And, down the right-hand side are the news headlines, and it says Bitcoin ETFs approved. I was like, bro, what? And clicked on that and saw that Wall Street was ready to allow companies to buy a bunch of Bitcoin and then divide that up into shares and sell them, So instead of buying Bitcoin, instead of buying Satoshis, you're buying shares of Bitcoin, right? So like,
what's the difference between that and just buying sats? Is it just because it's easier, or it's like,
well,
for people to?
It's the custody, like who actually holds the Bitcoin. And so in the case of these ETFs, it's either BlackRock or Fidelity. So they're going out and they're buying big swaths of Bitcoin and creating a fund with that, and then you buy shares of the fund. So the value of those shares track the value of Bitcoin. And the reason that's important is because there are institutions and other funds, like a pension or a 401k, who can't actually legally take custody of Bitcoin. So they need these other financial products to buy so that they can give their shareholders exposure to Bitcoin.
Okay.
So that's
I actually have Fidelity, and I think they had a section where I was in my HSA recently buying some shares of something, and crypto was an option of things to buy. But unfortunately, every time I select crypto, it wouldn't let me select my HSA. So I was like, okay, I guess I can buy them directly. So, but I did not check the funds of what they had, but they did have like an option for that. And I thought that was kind of interesting. It was actually after we had started talking about Bitcoin stuff. So I was like, oh, well, let me see if I can get that instead. So I'll say mentally, I think a number of months ago, I would have been like, whatever. But now I was like, oh, let me see if that crypto is an option here. Which Obviously, it wasn't, but that was fine. But
My
so there is a mental shift in what I'm open for.
Totally. My sister-in-law, another great example. Yesterday we were together and I think she was Venmoing someone and she went into Venmo and you can now buy and sell.
I saw that.
Right. And I mean, it's like in the back of my head, like a mental note, I need to look into that to understand what's going on there. But it is proliferating.
Yes, it seems that way. It seems like more big companies are getting into it. The government owns a lot of Bitcoin.
Yeah.
That it gets from seizing things on like dark web, the traffic like that. And of course, they're selling it. Right, Silk Road. I think they just got approved to sell all their Bitcoin, actually. But I think Trump wants to keep all Bitcoins from here on out is also what I heard. However, it's been the government since for that to sell it slowly over time.
Right.
And crash the market, obviously.
Right. So that's a good, the proliferation. Yeah. I feel like in 2024, it just went like, because back in 2017, when we were both at Atlantic BT, there was like that director of marketing guy, and he came to my desk and was like, dude, and he showed me his phone. He's like, look at this Bitcoin, man. He's like, I got in at like $3,000 and it's like $20,000, dude. And I was like, look, man, get out of my face. Like, I'm trying to transition from inside sales to outside sales. I'm trying to get rich here. I don't have time to talk about Bitcoin.
Yeah.
Wrecked myself.
There was actually a lot of people there that were into Bitcoin.
Dude, dude, the one guy who was like very much kept to himself, I think his first name started with the letter S. He was mining Bitcoin in his basement. Like he had big old rigs. And then it was like, he was going hard, dude. And I was like, oh, that's kind of cool. But that dude is a rooch right now, dude. He's so rooch.
The guy I worked with in IT, he mined Bitcoin in his, he had, I went to his house and he just had all these like naked motherboard like computers that weren't anything, just all around this one room. It was burning hot inside.
Yeah.
And he mined.
Mm-hmm.
He doesn't do it anymore because it's just like, he had solar power too. So he like was able to do it basically for free off of that. But
digital sun.
Dude, it does get energy intensive, right? But you know what I want to hear a little bit about is like, you said there was like a mental shift leading up to this moment where you're like, you're okay to look at whether you can get Bitcoin through some of these other vehicles. Taking it into self-custody, to answer your question from earlier, is like the main difference between what you did when you went from Bitcoin Well to your own Sparrow wallet versus what I did when I converted my Fidelity 401k that was with paychecks and not allowed to buy the Bitcoin ETF to an IRA that I controlled and then just straight going all the way into the Bitcoin ETF, right? So that Bitcoin that I have with Fidelity, it's paper Bitcoin. That's not my Bitcoin, right? Not your keys, not your cheese. So the Bitcoin I bought directly off Bitcoin Well into my own software wallet that I control the keys to, that's my Bitcoin. But Fidelity, let's say they buy one Bitcoin and they break it up into 100 million shares, right? One for each sat. And then I go in and buy 50 million shares of their ETF. They're like, okay, well, that belongs to you. That belongs to you, right? So if the nation state comes along and says, hey, guys, 6102, baby, all over again, right? Just like when Roosevelt issued the order for all Americans to turn in their gold in order to strengthen the dollar, it became illegal to have your own gold. And you needed to go turn into a bank that would give you the right amount of paper back, right? The government could say, hey, yo, 6102, okay, we need everybody's Bitcoin. And then Fidelity, BlackRock, and there are more ETFs. I think Gemini is another one. They could potentially be required to turn in their Bitcoin and then pay you out at the going rate at that time.
But why wouldn't I be? Would I not be subject to that as well if that's the case?
So it's much easier for the nation state to go to a handful of organizations that hold lots of Bitcoin and get it from them than it is to find you, determine that you have Bitcoin, and then get it from you, right? So let's imagine you had some gold coins during the 6102, but you live in Montana. Like, what are the chances of someone going all the way out there, finding you, and then confirming that you do have some gold coins hidden in the hills and getting all the way out there with you to dig them up and take them from you? Not high.
Right. Well, I guess it depends on how public your assets are to people. Also, it seems like you wouldn't be able to spend that gold without people knowing that you, in fact, had that gold. So what's the case with Bitcoin? Say if I'm using it to buy things, how would that not be seen and then brought back to me at some point as the owner of that wallet?
Right.
You know what I mean? I don't understand that sort of thing.
Okay. So a lot of people feel like Bitcoin is private, but Bitcoin is not private.
Yeah,
because you have a record of every single transaction that's ever been.
Right.
It's the most public thing ever.
That's what I'm saying. If every server verifies a transaction, I mean, it's a chain of transactions that everybody can see.
Mm-hmm.
So,
but
the custody goes all the way back to me.
Right.
At some point.
Well, it goes back to an address.
An IP address.
A wallet address.
So a physical address.
No. So when you have your wallet open, you'll see that there are separate addresses inside the wallet. It'll be like BC1, Q97, HKJ1. I mean, it's a big old string. That's an address, right? And so when you are working with Bitcoin, it is easy for your address to become known over time, right? So when you made your Sparrow wallet for the very first time and it spawned some new addresses, right? Those 20 some odd addresses are now addresses that people can see. There's no sats in them. Who owns it? We don't know. We don't know whose addresses those, who owns those addresses, right? Now, earlier in time, you were able to buy Bitcoin from one another, right? Or from an exchange, and you didn't have to supply any information about who you were, right? So Michael Bizzell, privacy enthusiast, right? He has a whole section where he talks about buying his equipment with Bitcoin and actually getting Bitcoin from another human being so that you have an address in a wallet with nobody's name attached to it, send Bitcoin to another address in another wallet with nobody's name on it, and then he goes and uses that to buy, a computer that he can use to set someone up privately, right? So if nobody knows who owns the address, then you do have a certain layer of privacy, right? You also have mixers. And what they do is they say, okay, we know this address belongs to Jorm because Bitcoin Well has to, they have to get information from you before they can send you Bitcoin, right? So in today's world, there are know your client or know your customer rules, and there are anti-money laundering rules, right? And so know your client, know your customer is KYC.
Okay.
Anti-money laundering is AML. Shout out to the banks that launder amounts of money around the world. And when they get caught, they just go, our bad, yo, and they pay a fine. Okay. And shout out to all the Bitcoiners who use these mixers. And then people are like, hey, you're doing anti-money laundering. You're in jail. We're like, bro, what's going on, dude? Why? So you went to Bitcoin Well and you said, hey, I'm Jorma Pelto. Okay, this is where I live. This is my bank account. Send me some Bitcoin. And now at the end of the year, your tax return will likely say, hey, did you buy any cryptocurrencies? Yes, I bought some Bitcoin.
This is where I was trying to get exactly where I'm looking for this conversation to go to. What is the tax implications of all this? Because if you can't see that I own this wallet, I mean, there's got to be something tax-wise around this. I know because my friend who mined got by the government. They're like, you owe us taxes on this.
Mm-hmm.
So how do they find that out? You know what I mean? Obviously, I'm buying Bitcoin Well, like you said, and it's going into my wallet. So there's some sort of the Bitcoin Well account, has information of me in it,
Mm-hmm.
and I'm telling it to go to a wallet. Clearly, that wallet is mine.
It's clearly your
Right?
address.
So what are the tax implications of Bitcoin? If I take Bitcoin out, what are these tax implications? If I'm just buying it, you know what I mean? Is it just like stock? Is it just a capital gains type situation? Like, what's the situation here? That is what I'm curious about.
Okay. So
Because if they can get my taxes, they clearly know I have it.
Right. My understanding for now is that you buy 1 Bitcoin in 2025. Okay.
Right. Would love to be able to.
That would be sick.
Yeah.
That would be juicy. Now, at the end of 2025, they're like, hey, did you buy any cryptocurrencies? And you're like, I didn't buy any crypto because I'm not into crypto. I'm a Bitcoin maxi.
I feel like I would have to say yes to that.
Okay. And then you would say yes, right? And then they would say, well, how much did you buy? And you would say, I bought 1 Bitcoin. And you say, okay, have you done anything else with it? Have you sold it? And you're like, no, I got it in the bank. Okay. All right. Appreciate it. Right. Now, let's say in 2026, you sell half that Bitcoin because it's gone to the moon and you want to buy something.
I sell and I exchange it for dollars.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. Let's
I
say
go into
back.
Bitcoin Well and I say, I want money for this.
Yeah. You say, hey, I'll sell you 0.5 Bitcoin. They're like, cool. We'll buy it for 99% of its value.
Goes in my balance. I transfer that to my bank.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. Once you've sold that 0.5 Bitcoin in 2026, then the tax return comes up. Hey, man, do you have any cryptocurrencies? Yes. I had 1 Bitcoin. I sold half of it. And they'll say, okay. So what was the 1 Bitcoin worth? Well, it was worth 100 grand. Okay. Well, what was it worth when you sold it? Well, it went up to 150 grand and I sold half. So I have 75 grand. And they'll say, okay, well, you need to pay capital gains on the 75 grand. Right. That's how it works currently.
So then what if I buy a Bitcoin, right? And then they're like, did you buy a Bitcoin? I'm like, yep. And they're like, did you do anything? I'm like, nope. But then next year I take that 1 Bitcoin I have and I buy things with people that accept Bitcoin, I suppose. And so I'm just transferring that Bitcoin from my wallet to their wallet.
Yeah.
And then buying things with it.
Nothing happens.
And they would be like, okay.
Nothing happens because you didn't harvest any gains off of that Bitcoin. Like imagine UTXO management in that scenario where you have 0.05 Bitcoin in one address and you want to melt it down into nice 0.01 blocks for your cold storage. And you transferred Bitcoin from yourself to yourself. And they're like, hold up, capital gains taxes, bro. That would be insane.
Right.
Right. So if you're in Bitcoin and using Bitcoin, they ain't no tax.
Right. So it also seems like there'd be no sales tax necessarily because of now what I feel like that's something the government's not going to be happy with.
No, they're not.
Okay.
It's like it's like a cash transaction.
Right.
It's like I go to the barber shop, they cut my hair, and I pay them in cash because they like that better.
Right.
Same thing.
So what do you see as the government's or as the possibility or time frame even as the government decided to get their hands in the sales tax type situation for Bitcoin transactions and how feasible that is?
I'd say probably about like right now. Because you have a scenario where the incoming president is perceived as being pro-Bitcoin. And, they're talking about a strategic Bitcoin reserve. He's saying absolutely hilarious things he gave a speech at the big Bitcoin conference. And at the end, he's like, and, just have fun with with your little Bitcoin. And I was like, oh my God, dude, this guy is out of control. And like later on, he's like, you know what? Maybe we will, maybe we'll just pay off our $35 trillion debt with a Bitcoin. It's like with a Bitcoin. So one Bitcoin would be $35 trillion in that scenario.
I mean, I would love it for that to happen.
That'd be
Since
nuts.
I have some amount of Bitcoin now, that'd be pretty sweet.
Dude, this podcast would be over, bro. You would never see me again. It's like, well, they only made 4 episodes. Why? It's because Bitcoin went to 35 trillion and Stewart's gone. And he has contracted Michael Bazell to fully privatize his entire life. So I do think that the government, the nation states around the world are starting to try to figure out, like, well, we couldn't kill it. And we can't make it ourselves.
They need to make money off of it somehow.
Right.
They're huge governments. They love money.
Right. Well, one option is to have their own Bitcoin, right? And currently the United States is the largest nation state holder of Bitcoin with over 200,000 Bitcoin. After that comes China with about 200,000, and then it dips down to 120,000 Bitcoin, maybe for the United Kingdom. Germany used to be up there. Ooh, wrecked themselves in the summer of 2024, dude. They had like 80,000 Bitcoin, something like that. They sold it for $58,000 a coin. You wrecked yourself, bro. You literally torched yourself. You know what I mean? Or Finland had like 200 Bitcoin compared to 200,000 for the United States. And they sold off half for like 70 or 80K. And like they would have had like another $90 million like after the month of November. So I think that the nation states are finding ways to get in on the power of Bitcoin themselves. Hey, if we have Bitcoin and the value of Bitcoin goes up, then we have more money, right? El Salvador is mining Bitcoin. The country. Nayib Bukele strapped some mining rigs to one of their volcanoes. And he is straight pulling geothermal energy out of a volcano, and he's using it to power the rigs, and they're mining Bitcoin, okay? The Kingdom of Bhutan, they ain't got nothing where they live, right? They ain't got nothing, dude. What's in Bhutan? Where is Bhutan?
I'm bad at geography. I couldn't tell you.
Right? Where is Bhutan?
Asia?
I think it's in the Himalayas.
Sounds like it could be.
Or something.
Way. Yeah.
Right? It's over there in that subcontinent of India, over into Southeast Asia. It's somewhere.
You'll have to like apologize for this later.
Dude, I can say factually Bhutan is on Earth. And they have a waterfall, bro. They have a waterfall. And what is that waterfall doing? It's just sending water over the edge over and over. Nonstop, dude. This waterfall never quits. What is that doing for them? Nothing, right? They generate energy with it.
Turning a turbine.
They send the energy out to their homes in Bhutan, and then they're like, guys, we have more energy than we know what to do with. And the way electricity works, they can't send it far enough out to be consumed by other nations to make money off. So then they figured out, well, hold up. If we have more energy than we need, let's strap a mining rig and power it with this excess energy. And they quietly mined enough Bitcoin to now equal 1/3 of their gross domestic product. And the only reason they were found out is because there was a company that went bankrupt or something to that effect. And there were some legal proceedings that implicated the Kingdom of Bhutan as having worked with the company or what have you. And ultimately, people figured out, and Bhutan was like, whoop, all right, you got us, dude. We've been mining Bitcoin this whole time, guys. We've been mining Bitcoin.
Actually, it's pretty wild to show the kind of privacy that exists, at least on that front. That entire nation can just be mining it and no one realizes it until something happened otherwise, outside of the actual aspect of them mining it, not showing who it was. Right. But then what do they do with that? Like, here's the thing, I got this Bitcoin, but now I'm not necessarily, at least at this point in time, going to Harris Teeter and buying my groceries with it. You know what I mean?
Right.
So, like, what is if this is something from what I've heard from you want to replace the dollar or just like not use it anymore, go straight to Bitcoin, what's the time frame that you see, or is there a time frame where you can just use Bitcoin instead of a currency?
Mm-hmm.
I assume there would still be a currency to be used. At some point, they would be together, right? But like, do you see yourself using Bitcoin to just pay for things, literally everything, your bills, gas, whatever? with Bitcoin
Uh-huh.
at some point in the future?
Well, hyper Bitcoinization is the plan,
Okay.
right? Where the entire world switches to Bitcoin and nation states adopt Bitcoin. They mine Bitcoin. They buy Bitcoin because they go, wait. Here's something that is verifiably scarce. It can be used globally for all transactions. And we're just going to print this money that we have, which we can do for free, and we're going to use that to buy this. We're going to print something that's worthless in order to buy as much of this thing that is worthwhile. So getting to a world where everyone uses Bitcoin all the time puts you in a place where you are buying Bitcoin with your coffee, right? Now, that's going to create a scenario where you will likely reserve on-chain transactions for your big buys. I'm going to move $1 million. I'm going to move $200,000, right? I'm going to commit that on-chain. And you will likely use a second layer technology like Lightning. And there's also now something I'm learning about called liquid Bitcoin. But effectively, you would use that to just zap sats around. Hey, yo, my coffee is 7 sats, which would be elite. That would mean 1 sat is $1. But I'm going to zap sats from my coffee, from my gas, all that stuff, right? So the time frame for that, it would be 2138 at the absolute latest, in my view, because that's when the last Bitcoin ever will be issued. And then we're just chilling with 21 million coins, and we're exchanging them between us and paying the miners transaction fees to commit those blocks, right? They don't get any more Bitcoin for solving the block. They only get the transaction fees, but they won't care because 0.1 Bitcoin worth of transaction fees for that block will be a lot of money by that point in time, right?
Okay.
Mhm.
So, I had a thought about that. That the idea of, and you just says earlier, you know, I'm moving this much money, so I'm going to do this on chain. I'll do this. I'm doing a Lightning node. That is all difficult to understand, right? I have $10. I give you $10. That is very simple, easy to understand. I put a card in. I take my card out. Money exchanges hands.
Mm-hmm.
But then you talk about Bitcoin, and you have on-chain transactions. You have off-chain transactions. There's all these like technical aspects to the just the movement
Mm-hmm.
and the transactions that occur around Bitcoin, and then like the sats, and then like the Lightning node on top of that, which isn't even Bitcoin changing hands at all. It's all this not real stuff happening until it like hits, and then it all goes on at once, right?
Yeah.
That is all very difficult to understand. And I think about all these people that are going to be very old,
Mm-hmm.
right? We have boomers now that are terrible at technology, our dad,
Yeah.
right? And these people, they're going to be now boomers of the time at that point that are going to be like, they have no idea how any of this works. How are they supposed to make these transactions in a simple way? Is there going to be some sort of other layers that come on top of that even that make it even more simple than Lightning to make so that you're not having to like figure out, oh, I have my own node and I have this thing and I have this thing. Like, how obfuscated does it become where it's just dollars?
Those to me, like that represents a market opportunity. You know, that's an opportunity for an entrepreneur, a company to come along and create an interface that shields all of that, and you know, an exchange that can happen like the liquid layer, right?
Mm-hmm.
What products are going to be built on top of that to help users interface and use it?
And I assume you'd be able to do that, but now you are losing some of your custodial management of it and your privacy to use that.
Yes.
Which is kind of like antithetical to what seems to me Bitcoin people in general. They're all about that sort of privacy of not privacy of like obviously all the transactions, but privacy of like what they have. I don't want anybody to know that. That's why I'm following this huge guide on how to make everything as private as possible.
Yeah.
Right. So I guess you would have to just like exchange that
I think I think
for
the
ease of use.
Yeah, I mean the mass market is going to give up some of those rights for ease of use. Like we are still so early on in this that like your position is one that will become increasingly rare in the Bitcoin landscape because people need the convenience. And so they're going to have to give up, the privacy rights that you enjoy because you're putting in the work to make sure that you have them.
Right. But now it's not what I want. Now I need a Bitcoin. Now I need Bitcoin 2.0 because now Bitcoin is just paper money at that point in time.
So when you look at the Bitcoin standard with Safedine, a moose who wrote that, right? He goes into this idea of like, well, what if they make a better Bitcoin? It's like the Bitcoin 2.0 will likely be an inferior version of Bitcoin because they got it right with Bitcoin. So from there, you're asking, hey, who's going to buy junk with this, right? It's peer-to-peer electronic cash. People are buying stuff with it right now, right? The good news is I can hand you some Bitcoin the same way I can hand you some cash. And it might be difficult for some people to understand, right? Here's what's hard to understand. Why do you and I have to work for a nation state's paper that the nation state can print for free?
Well, I have to survive and buy groceries and have my kid go to school.
Yeah.
And no one's just doing that for me.
Right. But
no one's just that's just not happening.
Why?
If I'm just chilling, that just does not happen. Right.
Why is that paper money? Why is a US dollar money? Is it because it's
a social contract?
Social contract? Yeah. Okay. So
at least it is now. It seems like it was backed by actual heavy metal. Is this something you think is going to be backed by heavy digital metal now? And it's actually they're going to end up backing everything by Bitcoin, and I will still transact $1, but now that dollar actually goes back to sats.
Yes. Probably the Bitcoin backed dollar is probably up next. But think about it like this. Let's imagine you have gold. And you're like, okay, guys, gold is hard money. It's hard to find this stuff. Okay.
That's precious metal.
So we're going to make this our money because if we use this money, it's not likely that people are going to find a whole bunch more very quickly to devalue our share of the gold. Okay, cool. Well, I need to buy a really big something from you. Okay. In order to do that, I need to get this gold from me to you. Well, gold is heavy. It's heavy, boy.
It's heavy, boy.
Okay.
Yeah.
I was out there. I was stockpiling my gold. That gold was heavy. It was a heavy, boy. So what am I going to do? Carry 300 pounds of gold from Montana to Kentucky to make this transaction for you? Nah. So what's the solution? Oh, well, what we'll do is we'll put the gold in one spot. We'll centralize the gold. The gold is worth 1,000 US dollars. Nice. What we're gonna do is we're gonna print sheets of paper. We're gonna print 1,000 $1 bills, and that's as good as gold. Okay. This paper is light. It's foldable. It's transportable. You can carry it in your pocket from Montana to Kentucky. Okay. And all you gotta do is when you want your gold back, just come give us the sheet of paper, and that's worth that much gold. Awesome. But over time, what happens? The layers get abstracted more and more and more until they're like, well, you know what? Not everybody's going to turn in their $1,000 all at once. We're not going to have to give away all this gold. I bet we could print 1,000 more dollars and just kind of get it into circulation, right? So, and that way people can transact easier, right? We're doing them a favor, guys. Okay. And, it'll be okay. It's going to work out. Nobody's going to want all the gold at one time. Well, now your dollar is worth half as much as it was a second ago because they've just made more of it for free. And over time, they print more and more and more and more and more. And then like Nixon in 71, and really it was trashed a lot before that, they say, ooh, we actually have printed so much money that we can't even redeem this junks for gold, bro. Like we're so out of whack. We're so out of whack. You know what we're going to do, guys? We're getting off the gold standard, guys. We're jumping off the gold standard, dude. Now this currency is simply currency because we say so. And it's going to float around in the ether. And and there's other currencies and they're going to float around, right? And none of it is based in the real world. So for whatever reason, we're now in a spot where we think it's harder to understand digital money than this crazy paper.
I mean, I kind of agree with that. I think it's difficult. I think seeing money in paper makes a lot of sense. It's very physical. You can see it. I go to my bank account. I see it. I've lived my whole life with dollars. I can see what's in there, and that makes sense to me.
Mm-hmm.
Not necessarily, an investment or a Bitcoin. Like, I also understand stocks. I own this much of a company. It's kind of like dollars of a company. Bitcoin, it's like dollars of Bitcoin. So for me, they're all very separate and then distinct. But if we're going to, at some point in time, you think the government might back the dollar by a bit, you think they could take that aside? You think they could take the dollar, which is now no longer backed by gold, and then go, we're actually going to back it by something again.
Mm-hmm.
We're going to re-back this.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I feel would be surprising. Because it seems to me they have just full control of their dollar and do whatever they want with it.
They do now. They do now. But
if they back it by Bitcoin, now they're like, well, now we don't have control over it because Bitcoin's decentralized. We have no control over Bitcoin.
Right. But if they hold the keys to their Bitcoin, then that is their Bitcoin.
It's like digital gold.
Exactly.
It is like digital gold, right? So you can think of Bitcoin like digital gold.
But then what stops them from just printing off more money than digital gold that they have, just like they did they had gold?
Let me just get real close here so everybody can hear this. Nothing stops them. That's why it's the problem, right? When you take Bitcoin into your own custody, you are adopting a currency that no one controls. And no one can do any crazy shenanigans with your Bitcoin, right?
I like that part of it.
Yeah, right. Like imagine
Very
you
stable
had
in that way.
Yeah. So, one of the reasons why I'm a safety in Maxi is because his biggest thing in the Bitcoin standard, at least for me, is that you cannot spend what you do not have. Okay. Modern economic theory is busted, dude. It's blurs. And they get into all this madness of stocks, bonds, treasuries, interest rates, Federal Reserve, financial advisors. You know what I mean? They created the Detgum Health Savings Account, which is the most busted vehicle
I was like, what
of
is
all
this?
time.
Why do I just get to do this?
They're
This
like,
is
okay,
crazy.
let's make an account where you can put dollars in tax-free for your healthcare, but if you put in enough money, you can just invest that junk. What?
Yeah. And if I need the money, it doesn't even matter if it's invested. It just comes right out of it as if it wasn't, too. It's like, it's crazy.
Right.
I'm like, I don't understand how this is okay.
So you're operating in this big swirling world of fiat that is anchored to no thing at all other than America's future productivity, right? Like,
Yeah,
hey
it's
guys,
a huge
we're
grift
good for
that
it.
is inside.
Right. People are like, oh, Bitcoin's a scam. No, homie. It's the other way around, right? Oh, Bitcoin has value. Bitcoin does have value.
Yeah.
Bitcoin has no value. No, right? Because it's fiat that has no value. So when
Well, fiat has a lot of value for me. I'll say that.
It does, but it does. It does for everyone,
for,
but
like,
it's
literally
going
everything.
but it's going down, quickly.
forever.
Yeah.
Laura.
Yeah.
I mean,
It's down.
unfortunately,
Down.
I can't do anything about it.
No.
though.
Well, you can buy-
It's the money that I am forced
Yes.
to buy there. Yeah.
It got to the point where it's become the most widely accepted medium of exchange.
Yeah.
That is why
Used for
it
everything.
is. Yeah. That's why it's as powerful as it is.
We can't even think of stuff not in dollar terms.
No.
No, I don't.
Everything's linked to the dollar.
Everything is linked to it.
Dude. So
Everything costs so much more constantly.
right. Why?
And that's inflation.
inflation. And what
Yeah,
causes
period.
inflation?
I don't know.
Right. And everybody's betting on you not knowing.
Yeah.
The nation state is betting on you not knowing, right? They're like, oh, supply chain issues, guys. Okay. They're like, oh, things are just getting more expensive, y'all. Okay. It's not true, right? And when you think about what it used to take to make stuff by hand, right? And now what it takes to make stuff where you can just whip it through a machine, it costs less to make the thing. So why does the thing cost more? Huh? What is happening? The answer is when a nation's productivity is outstripped by its monetary supply, inflation. If America is $1 billion productive, hey, we made horseshoes, cars, houses, services, right? Worth $1 billion. Okay, that's our entire nation's ability to produce. But the government says we're going to print $2 billion, okay? Because we don't want to tax y'all at the true rates required to operate this thing. You're going to be so mad at us. Instead, we're going to erode it out from underneath you. So now your $1 billion, we've got $2 billion worth of paper. That means that the money you made, we actually took half of it. We taxed half. Like, hey, you income tax 11%, guys. No, we took half of it, right? Because since they control the money supply, they control how much they take from you, whether you know it or not. Now, let's say you have some gold coins, okay? Let's say you're not in, and not only have we grown up only with US dollars, we only know the nation state. It's the only thing that we got. Mm-hmm. Ain't nobody got an idea what it's like to live underneath a duke, living today. Maybe someone in Andorra, right, between Spain and France. They probably know what it's like, right? But the idea of living in a world where somebody has to figure out where the hell you are and then where your money is and then say, hey, can I have some of that? Because we want to protect this area. We got to go to war next door, right? If you think about that, if you had gold, right, then that gold is your gold. And it's a real thing. It's a real thing, right? It's not a social contract, okay? It's not a fiat declaration, right? Mm-hmm. Fiat means by decree. That gold is that gold. No matter what you think about that gold, it is that gold. It's a real thing, right? If you had silver, that's a real thing. If you used glass beads, if you used, shells, if you used yap stones, those are real, actual things that can be had. They're not just like fugazis, right? Bitcoin is the same way, just digital.
Yeah.
It's a real thing. And if you control it, then you create a world where the government has to work for its money the same way we have to work for our money. You can't do all this nonsense anymore, right? You can only spend what you have.
Yeah, if I'm a government, I don't want to do any of that nonsense.
No.
So why would I stop doing all that nonsense?
If something, well, because you have to. If some other money is created that forces you to.
You think if like enough governments swap to it, it would force bigger ones to do it? Like, what do you think is the catalyst for a government deciding, okay, this is how we're going to operate now?
So I believe if enough individuals convert to Bitcoin standards, then they will create a scenario where governments have to compete for their business the same way companies do. So America might say, hey, guys, we don't like Bitcoin. Okay, we're going to charge a 30% tax on energy used for Bitcoin mining. Okay. Last time I checked, I can use my energy for whatever I want. You know what I mean? You're going to tax me if I try to use this toaster, right? This is messed up. They're going to say, hey, we are going to put, like Italy. They're like, hey, it used to be 26% capital gains on Bitcoin. It's 54% now, bro. Mm-hmm. So what's that Italian guy going to do who has enough Bitcoin to like be substantial? He's going to go to Switzerland.
He's just going to piece it. He's going to leave it.
He's going to be like, you know what? Never mind. See you, dude. And you're going to have people that choose their jurisdiction, right? Because you can work from where? Where can you work from?
I work from anywhere.
Any old where, right? You don't operate in a factory, okay? You don't mine a quarry.
I do not.
You work digitally. So you can work anywhere you want.
Yep.
But you're using money
I'm getting paid in money.
Right.
So I'm then using money back at people.
Yeah. But is your money as free as you are?
I've never thought about that. Is my money as free as I am?
To go anywhere and buy anything?
No, it's pretty much done. It's stuck. It's doing whatever I want it to do, I guess.
Well, people have to value the U.S. dollar too. Like you can.
Well, they are valuing the U.S. dollar,
right? And that's a huge subject on how the dollarization of the world, went down, right? But if you're free to make money anywhere, then you can live anywhere.
Yeah.
And if you don't like where you live, then you can go somewhere else.
Well, as long as they let you go there.
Correct. That's when it gets a little scary.
Yeah.
Because they're like,
not every place just let you go there.
They're like,
what I mean?
ooh. So you're trying to leave, correct? We lock us out.
Yeah, or if you go somewhere and they're like, yeah, you can come here, but give us some of your Bitcoin.
Actually,
if that's huge,
it's
you know
more
what I mean?
likely an exit tax. They'll say, oh, okay, you're a high net worth individual leaving America. Ooh, give us 50% of what you have and we'll let you leave.
That seems pretty wild.
Yeah. So then you're like, well, wait, I can't leave my own country?
Yeah, that would be very upsetting.
What's going on?
I would definitely feel like I'm in prison at that point in time.
Yeah. So wait, I have to work for something you can print for free and I can't leave. What?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So, what Bitcoin means to me is a money that cannot be manipulated by anyone else, and it has to be worked for. Everyone has to work for it. Proof of work. You have to show me you've worked for it in order to get it. You can't just make it. So if more and more people adopt Bitcoin, initially as a store of value, I want to be able to buy the same thing tomorrow that I can buy today.
Yeah, basically I'm doing it as an investment. I'm not looking to replace my dollars with Bitcoin because it doesn't seem very feasible right now. However, I am doing it as an investment to store my money elsewhere, just at a minimum at a hedge against inflation. And because my understanding of what its nature is that it will be worth something because it is a finite resource. Digital as it is, digital and physical things doesn't bother me. I work in a digital, everything I do is digital.
Yeah.
Right. So for me, that doesn't lessen its value or anything of that nature for me. So I have no problem with the fact that it doesn't have like any sort of physicality to it. So yeah, for me, it's like a hedge against inflation and my cash being worth nothing.
Right.
So, and an investment, I want to get a bit more and be worth more. Right. At this point in time, I think maybe at some point in time, if somebody accepts Bitcoin, maybe I'll be like, all right, yeah, I'll pay you in that. Great. That sort of thing. My problem is I don't see, we have a lot of young people now, and the ones that I deal with and talk to and have seen are just as bad as boomers when it comes to technology. Technology has become so obfuscated, right? They're in like these walled gardens, but they don't understand how anything works at all when it comes to technology, even worse in some situations than boomers can be. And so I actually feel like we're getting technologically dumber as for the newer generations. And I actually wonder if they'll be able to understand any of this stuff, even the way it seems to me that it's going. They're like,
they need to be incentivized to somehow.
Sure.
Because if they don't, then they're not going to get what we're talking about right now.
Right.
And they're going to become poorer over time.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah.
So, I mean, and what better incentive? The problem is, like, that takes time. That takes, like, generations.
That's what I'm saying. That's what I see in my head is there's these generations that's going to take for this sort of thing to occur.
Yeah.
That I don't personally see this switching or just happening just because now we've mined the last Satoshi. There's no more Bitcoins. All right. we're doing it. We're all right. You know what I mean? For me, there's like a lot more social aspects that go into currency.
Well, I guess that's what my thought is that it will take products to dumb it down enough for the mass market.
Yeah, what you said earlier, and I think that is smart. I think that is necessary.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. And it's already been dumbed down a lot for us to be able to use it. Because, you know, if you talk to some OGs, the idea of having their Bitcoin on a wallet in 2013, 2014, 2015, dude, the learning curve there was nuts. The learning curve there was nuts.
Where would they put it? Was it just, did they just have to, was it just each transaction they just had it? I don't understand.
You know,
where
it's
did
like,
they store it?
That was like fully, they were like, those dudes were like bare metal Bitcoiners. You know what I mean? You and I are at a stage where, okay, we can download an app. We can sign up for it.
Yep.
We can log into an exchange, put in our bank details, and we can send it from here to here, and we know we got it.
Yeah.
Right?
It was confusing to set up, but also not enough that I can't do it.
Yes.
Right.
And so in the future, it'll probably be even easier, right? And to an extent, there will be a lot of people who are going to allow others to custody their Bitcoin the same way we allow others to custody our money right now.
Yeah, everybody
the amount of actual money I control is none.
I control literally no money.
No money.
I have no hard cash.
None.
No hard cash.
None.
You know what I have? I have $20 on my desk that's actually my kids. That's the amount of hard cash I actually control at this point. The rest of it is in a bank.
Yep.
Which I can't go to a bank and say, give me all my money out. They probably don't have that on hand.
They're like, ooh.
I can't just go to Fidelity and take my money out. That takes time.
Yeah.
And
you know
penalties if you withdraw it too early.
Penalties if it's in like an IRA or it's in 401k, that costs now I've got to pay money to get that money.
What happens if you want to do it at 9 o'clock on a Sunday?
Yeah. I bought Bitcoin on Sunday.
Yeah.
Yeah, boy.
Right? The price changed on Sunday.
Yeah.
Right? That's not something that the rest of the economy is doing. And, you know, we are living in a digital world. Yeah. Everything is happening all the time.
Correct. So you
not
can.
just Monday through Friday.
Yeah.
And a little bit on Saturday too, I guess.
I can send you a text message 24 hours a day.
Yeah.
That's information. I want to send you money 24 hours a day. They're like, stop, bro.
Yeah.
Hit us up at 9 a.m. tomorrow morning. So what's the difference?
Right.
You know? And when you look at the actual hours available, 9 to the stock market opening at 9 or 9:30 in the morning and closing around 4 o'clock, 5 days a week.
Yeah.
That's 20% of the week. That means that you're able to do junk with your money 1 out of every 5 hours, bro. Yeah. What? But you don't control any of your cash. It's all numbers somewhere.
All numbers,
okay?
Dude.
Now, what if those numbers were numbers that you could verify yourself?
Yeah, I would love it.
That you could control yourself.
Love that.
That you could send any old time, any old where, no matter if you're on Earth or Mars.
Yeah, big fan.
Right?
Yeah.
Of course you would want money like that.
Yeah.
Right? Money that's locked up 80% of the time.
I don't see or know about, really. It's all mythical to me.
That can be printed by someone else whenever they want. Yeah. That makes it harder for you to buy stuff.
Right.
That's got to be some terrible money.
Yeah.
Last time I checked,
my groceries
that's probably about
expensive.
Dude.
Probably $200 every time you go to the store.
Yeah, minimum. Yeah. I was just doing a top off.
Yeah.
This is a top off.
Yep.
I didn't even get pantry items. That cost more money. Like I didn't have to re-up my olive oil. You know what I mean? Like
why do you think Costco is doing so well?
Yeah, for real.
So to keep up with the madness of your purchasing power going away in real time, you have to turn into Leo DiCaprio in Wolf of Wall Street. And you have to figure out the stock market. You got to figure out your portfolio. You got to figure out stocks, bonds, international stocks.
That's an hassle, dude.
You know what? It's not even good enough to drop a lazy man's portfolio. I'm going to start to get out the candles. Here goes a green candle. Here goes a red candle. I'm going to trade. I'm going to be a day trader, right? You have to become a part-time financial wizard to preserve your own ability to buy stuff.
Yeah, it's exhausting. I just want to sit around and play games.
What would be really
not
cool
do all that.
is if you,
I don't want to do all that.
what would be cool is if you could make some money, you could spend what you need to live, you could store the rest for later, and it would buy you the same amount, and hopefully maybe even a little bit more.
Right.
Than when you...
I mean, I think we could all get behind that.
Yeah.
That sounds pretty nice.
All right. So it looks like we are now down to your choice. Okay. We're going to ask you to choose.
Okay.
Between $50. Okay. And actually,
this is actually physical. I would actually control $50 more if I took this.
This is cash.
Right.
We got 2 Andrew Jacksons. We got 1 Alexander Hamilton.
Right.
Okay. Now, your other option is $50 worth of sats.
Okay.
Okay. Now, Chris is going to check the Clark Moody dashboard and tell us how many sats you can get right now for $1.
1,082.
1,082. He's going to X 1,082 by 50.
All right. 1,082 times 50. 54,100.
Now, before you say anything,
all right,
we need you to make another very important choice, which is which flavor of Ithaca hummus do you want to try today?
I want the one that had dill in it.
Ooh,
the one like a lemon dill situation.
Lemon dill.
Okay. So we have our generic woven wheat chip.
Right, yeah.
Right? We don't want to name any chips just yet. Okay? All right, lemon dill. Show them the lid.
Okay.
Lemon dill.
Love it. Like the green for the lemon. Is it always green?
No.
Okay, I do like the branding.
Yeah, yeah.
That's nice.
Shoppable.
And I'm getting the first dip here. That's a horrible faux pas, but it's okay. All right. And then Chris will get some. We'll all try it at the same time, okay? Jesse smelled it first as well.
Well, yeah, that's like most of your taste is in the smell.
That's crazy. I would never think to smell food. Okay, you ready?
Okay.
Mmm. Oh, boy.
Have you had this one before?
No, dude. Mmm.
This is actually very good.
Dude, this lemon dill slap.
This is actually very good.
Mmm. Mmm.
Yeah.
Wow.
This is actually very solid hummus.
Yeah.
The lemon and dill is such a good flavor combination.
Wow. There was some rich dill flavor.
I love dill so much.
Me too.
Mm.
Me too.
Dude.
We get the good dill too.
This is a winner.
Yeah.
This for sure. This is very good.
This hummus is a big deal.
Big dill. Tastes outside your comfort zone.
Okay. Now it's time. $50. That will probably buy you $20 worth of stuff later. Or over 54,000 sats, which when the dollar reaches parity with sats will be $54,000, and you have made $54,000 to come on the show. 54,000 sats that will likely buy you more than $50 worth of stuff later. Which one do you want?
Oh, I'll take the Bitcoin.
Dude, we're taking the Bitcoin. Let's go, dude. 2 for 0. 2 for 0.
Dude,
man.
I hear Jeremy over there.
Oh my God, dude.
He's
We are
going
currently
nuts.
at a 100% success rate.
I'm
right?
a coiner, bro.
Dude,
Coin.
Jorm's a Bitcoiner. Wow. Thank you for coming on, Jorm. This has been an amazing conversation. First ever Bitcoiner on the show. Let's go. That's always going to be yours, man.
Great.
That's where we like to be.
I got one thing at least there, so that's nice.
So we want you to like this video. We want you to subscribe to the channel. Okay. We're taking a race to 1,000 subscribers, right? Join the Sat Pack. Subscribe to the show. Join the Sat Pack.
Nice.
When we get to 1,000 strong, then we're going to unlock a live show Friday morning for everyone. And we're all going to get on here together. We're going to chat about sats in real time. So like and subscribe on YubTub. Love you, Jorm. You're the best.
Love you too, dude.
Sat Chats is for informational purposes only and should not be considered financial advice. Our guests' views are their own.